Please follow the link below to donate to the Onyx Tavern for as low as $1 a month, and remember to submit your fan art to onyxtavern@gmail.com. Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, bringing you episode 212 here at the Tavern, where tonight we're going to be talking about the Rangers of 1969. And no, I don't mean the literal Rangers of 1969, because, well, they don't exist. I am, of course, talking about the Ranger team that Zordon formed in 1969, as told in issue 20 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the comic series published by Boom Studios. Because, yes, finally, we are going to be talking about an aspect of the Power Ranger comics. Not the comics in their entirety, but really just this one issue and the concept that came from it. Because here's the thing, I've been wanting to talk about the comics for a while. The problem is I'm just kind of woefully behind on what's happening in the series, because I've read up to issue 20. That's it. I haven't gotten the Shattered Grid. I haven't gotten anything else at that point. I am as far as issue 20. And that's mainly because I'm collecting the trades. I'm not actually going out to the comic shop every month and buying up the comics for various reasons, but I'm buying the trades whenever they come out on Amazon. I'm up to volume 5. Issue 20 is the last one I've actually read. I do have Pink. I didn't actually read any of that. I did read the Justice League crossover, and I haven't actually read any Go-Go yet. But, you know, the thing is that I want to talk about them. It's just I haven't been able to keep up to really have a thorough discussion about everything that's happening. But what's going on in this comic is a single issue, and from what I understand, and this is not spoilers or anything from my knowledge, is that this Ranger team is only ever appearing in issue 20, and that they have no further bearing on the plot, at least as of the time of this recording in late May of 2018. Nevertheless, I want to go ahead and talk about this one aspect, because here's the thing about the comics. They are great. They're good. Now, I've never read comics before. I follow Linkara, and that's pretty much the extent of my comics knowledge. It's amazing. I go out to all these Marvel movies, and everybody's got a million questions for me. I'm like, I don't read the comics, and yet somehow I know a lot about what's going on. But in any case, you know, I think the comics are great. Do they have their problems? Yes. Once I kind of get caught up and I see certain storylines unfold, I do want to talk about other aspects, some issues I do have with them. But, you know, hey, they're good. I'm reading them. I enjoy them. I just wish there weren't so many, because like I said, I am behind. I don't know why we have a Mighty Morphin series and then we have a Go-Go series, where the Mighty Morphin series picks up after Tommy becomes the Green Ranger, but the Go-Go is a prequel to that, which I don't even know, because I'm trying not to spoil myself. Is it in the same timeline? Is it a parallel timeline? I don't know. I don't have the information to that, and you can let me know in the comics. I probably won't read it, but I'm trying to get caught up, and of course I've already pre-ordered the first trade of Go-Go, and I'm hoping to go ahead and get caught up on that. Okay, but with all that out of the way, I at least want you guys to know where I am with the comics, where I am with the reading, basically, so you're not saying, you know, hey, well, didn't you read this, didn't you read that, didn't you know, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I don't know any of that. Issue 20 is as far as I've gotten on the main series. I really can't wait to get to Shattered Grid. I've heard some good things about it, but I have no idea what's going on, and please, you know, no spoilers, guys. I'm going to, you know, get to it at my own pace. Whenever the next volume or two come out, I'm going to get to it, I promise. But what really intrigues me about the comic series so far is issue 20. Now, I'm not saying it's the best issue, but man, did it have some great ideas. Man, did it have things to actually go and discuss and talk about, and that's what we're doing tonight. So basically, it picks up as a flashback in the story proper from issue 19, where it's revealed that the character of Grace Sterling, who approaches the Rangers, said that she was the original Red Ranger for Zordon. And of course, you know, with that cliffhanger ending from issue 19, it goes into 20 to give the explanation of what happened. How did she become the Red Ranger? Why is she no longer the Red Ranger anymore? And it's a great story, and Okay, so here's the story. So basically, the story takes place on July 20th, 1969, which is great because we have a pinpointed moment in history. And of course, those of you who know your history, which should be all of you at this point, July 20th, 1969 was the moon landing, where we put men up on the moon. And that's the backdrop of our Power Ranger piece. It's the late 60s, man has finally gone to the moon, only instead of finding Leonard Nimoy Transformers up on the dark side of the moon, they have unwittingly awakened Psycho Green. Because here's basically what happened. Rita was imprisoned on the moon, and in this continuity, it is the moon. Something I'll get into probably a later video is that in the original Mighty Morphin television show, it is the planet Nemesis from the Zoo Ranger footage, and the implication I've always had is it was not the moon, and that Rita relocated to the moon at a later point. But in the comics continuity, it is certainly the moon. Basically, Psycho Green was on a mission from Dark Spectre, first name drop of him, to release Rita from her imprisonment in the dumpster. But was thwarted by Alpha and Zordon, who shot him down using laser cannons mounted, I believe it was on the surface of the Earth or the Moon. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and reread that part. But basically, he's got missile turrets, laser turrets, that shot down Psycho Green, and basically he has been on the moon for however many thousand years, waiting for rescue in suspended animation. And basically, the moon landing triggered his ship's automated systems to wake him up, not unlike an alien. And now, of course, the threat is, hey, Psycho Green's going to get out. He's going to go ahead and find Rita, open it up, and, we're all screwed because letting Rita out of the dumpster is the main issue right there. Now, of course, Zordon, knowing that this is a problem, he recruits not teenagers with attitude, but young adults with actual attitude. And I just want to, and he gets them together, and I'll go over the characters here in a minute because these are some very interesting characters. He sends them up to the moon, and they win, but only two of them come back. Yeah, in this comic, of the 5 original Rangers that Zordon brings into the fold here, 3 of them die, and only 2 of them survive. And it's very short, it's very interesting, and I just love it for a number of reasons. Okay, so basically let's talk about a few things here. First of all, when the Rangers are gathered up together, they are actually 5 unique, distinct characters that I really like. You have Grace, who becomes our Red Ranger. She's an Asada, a scientist who could have been an astronaut, but it's 1969, so of course women can't be astronauts at that point. So we already have someone who's really intelligent, in physical shape, and has a chip on her shoulder for, well, not necessarily being a woman, but being in a society that doesn't value women like they should. So I guess this is kind of like Hidden Figures, but with Power Rangers. Then we have our Blue Ranger, Nikolai, who is basically a KGB operative. They don't specifically say that in the comic. He's hinting at it, but I'm going to say he is a KGB operative. Then we have Jamie, who's like a British rock star. We have Daniel, who is our Pink Ranger, our first male Pink Ranger, who's basically, a hippie, member of the counterculture, whatever you want to go ahead and call it. But he's a protester. He's against the war in Vietnam. And we have, and I cannot pronounce this guy's name, but I'm going to try, Terorna, Washington. And he is our Yellow Ranger, who is a Vietnam vet. So Zordon has brought a scientist, a spy, a musician, a soldier, and a protester all together to become the first team of Power Rangers. And what I really like about this idea, and this really kind of stems from what we got in Jetman, is Jetman is predicated on the fact that you have 5 Rangers, 5 heroes that really should not be together, and some of them should not be Rangers in the first place. And what I like about that is that I like the drama. I like the team dynamics. We kind of get this in later seasons of Power Rangers, Dino Thunder, and even the most recent movie, but I just don't think they worked as well in Jetman because, hey, Dino Thunder was basically the jock, the nerd, and the emo girl all have to become Power Rangers. Yeah, but they're all teenagers, they're all in the same high school, there's very little different between them other than their social cliques, to be quite honest. Power Rangers movie is kind of the same thing. They all go to the same high school. They're all teenagers and stuff. But what we actually get here is five people from different backgrounds, from different cultures, different ages, different ways of life, different languages. It's just everything is really different. This is like I feel like this is really the first time we got five unique characters that wouldn't get along, that shouldn't be in the same room together, but they do band together to save the Earth. Which is really what you want out of these characters. You want characters that will have drama between them, but do have that common goal of wanting to protect the planet. And I love that. I like this, and I like these characters. The only thing I don't particularly enjoy about is that they ended up killing off three of the characters, and supposedly, again, from my understanding, issue 20 is the last time we hear about any of these characters, other than Grace, who does. I'm told she's a reoccurring character in the series, but we don't know anything what happened to our Yellow Ranger after he left, and of course, nothing else about the Rangers. And what's great about this too is that this comic brings into question Zordon's logic and honestly Zordon's sanity. For those of you who recall, I had an episode way back where I basically asked, is Zordon incompetent? Because if you really dissect his plan, and I'm talking about the TV version, I'm not talking about any other version, if you take the Day of the Dumpster Zordon and look at his plan, he's trying to stop Rita, he's in a time warp, and he gets five teenagers from a city who have no training, background experience, whatever, to go ahead and fight the evil. And then we find out he didn't really design or build any of the Zords or weapons for the most part. He found the Dino coins. He has no replacement for them once they're damaged or destroyed. The Zeo Crystal is kind of like a last-minute plan he puts together. Zordon really does things by the seat of his pants with no real plan, no real idea of what's going on, no real strategy. Because in any given situation where the Earth is at stake and you need to get superheroes, you have to get trained and seasoned veterans. Going back to Marvel just really quick, that's kind of the thing with Spider-Man in the Marvel movies is that he is a teenager. I think he's 15, 16 in the actual films in Homecoming and Civil War. And that you don't entrust him with the world. You bring him when you need him for a particular mission, but he's not an A-list member of the Avengers, and there's good reason for that. It's because he's young and he's inexperienced, as opposed to someone who, like Captain America, who's been through war, who's old, mature, knows what the hell he's doing. And in the context of Power Rangers, we have that with the first team of Rangers and number of teams after, but Zordon you really have to question when you look back at all the decisions that are made in the series, the things that he does, his defenses, whatever, and all that. You really have to think about that. And this comic puts a spotlight on those issues. Now, it doesn't resolve any of those issues, and I'm hoping that's something they continue later in the series. But they outright ask him, what the hell are you doing? Because once the mission goes south and everybody dies except our red and yellow Rangers, they blast him about this kind of stuff. What the hell were you doing? Because let's think about what happens here with Zordon. So he traps Rita in the dumpster. He's in time warp, can't do anything. But at least he has, defense systems to shoot down aliens that come to Earth, to the moon. Okay, so that's one thing. He can't do anything himself. That's why he's got Alpha. And he recruited a team of Rangers if and when he needs it, but he's got automated systems to shoot down enemies. Okay, that's great. Number one, here's first issue. Shoots down Psycho Green, and the ship lands on the moon. They thought he was destroyed, but they didn't think to go check that. They didn't think to go check, see if there's any wreckage or debris. Because, keep in mind, they do have sensors, they do have teleporting capabilities. You couldn't send Alpha to the moon to check. You couldn't set the viewing globe on the moon to check. Because, basically, he had been there for a very long time, and Zordon Alpha didn't know about it. Because what ends up happening is when we send the Apollo program to the moon in 1969 and land, is that landing that triggers Psycho Green's ship that reactivates him. So basically, Zordon had no contingency, thinking, oh, well, what if something does happen? Because they explain, they know what the ship is doing. They know that he was in stasis and it's being reactivated in case of rescue, and it was the lander that set it off. So they had no contingency for something like that that would happen. So what does he do? I mean, literally, as the event's happening, or right after the event's happening, people are reflecting on Man on the Moon. That's when he teleports the Rangers in with their mission, go stop Psycho Green. He just woke up, and we gotta go stop him before he gets to Rita, basically. That's a very last minute kind of thing that should have been planned out in a very long succession. Um, but no, we send the Rangers up there. Then again, let's take a look at who we brought to the Ranger team and let's question Zordon's logic there. Grace, that makes perfect sense. Scientist, astronaut, whatever. She's perfect candidate. Nikolai, KGB. I guarantee that they have a number of skills that would be useful. Terorna, our soldier. Okay, Vietnam soldier makes sense. But what about Daniel and Jamie? Why get a rock star and a protester? What's the point there? I mean, you got 3 out of 5 right, but why couldn't you get the last 2 in this particular equation? I mean, again, Zordon will have gotten 3 highly qualified members here, 2 that are not qualified. 3 of these people end up dying, to the 2 unqualified and the most competent of the bunch. And when we actually get, 20, 30 years later to the Mighty Morphin era, actually, well, no, it's more like 40, 50, given that the time scale is a little bit different here. He goes with all teenagers. So he didn't learn anything in this. He gets 3 competent people, a soldier, a spy, and a scientist, and then a musician and a protester. The musician and protester die, and yet moving forward in the future, he gets nothing but a team of protesters and musicians. I mean, think about that for a second. He obviously doesn't learn his lesson here that he needs competent soldiers. And of course, again, he doesn't do that when he gets Jason, Trini, Zach, Billy, and Kimberly. And then they even bring this up in the comic number of times. I almost called it an episode, but they bring in comic. Why didn't you get actual soldiers? And then when the mission goes south and they win, but everybody dies, they're like, "Why did you send us out? You gave us no training. You told us nothing. It was a last minute kind of thing. You didn't prepare, and we got killed. What are you going to do about it?" And Zordon has no answer for them. He literally has no answer, just that he's sorry that it happened. And there is something to be said about having to save the world and do that kind of stuff, but at the same time, to send these people in the way that you did, and for more than half of them to get killed, I mean, that is incompetence on some level. And I'm really surprised their Red and Yellow Rangers don't do more with it. And what's even worse, too, is that Zordon is quoting his own type of prime directive in this. Because by the end of the comic, they're like, okay, so we stopped Psycho Green, so the world is, it's going to be fine. We're not going to be invaded. But keep in mind, this story happens at the height of the Cold War, and we're losing Vietnam, lost Vietnam, and Zordon says, no, you can't keep the powers, you gotta give them back. You can't go out there and change the world. You can't use your powers for the betterment of mankind. Now, yes, there is an argument to be had whether or not you should be able to have the Ranger powers to go out there, fight Vietnam, and win that war. There's also a discussion to be made whether or not that technology should be available to humanity at large, or if it's shared with specific nations. There is a discussion to be had, but Zordon does not want to have that discussion. He doesn't bring it up. And our Yellow Ranger, who has been through the horrors of the Vietnam War, which, yes, this is Power Rangers, it is a fictional universe, but I'm sure Vietnam was still Vietnam. And yet, Zordon's like, we can't do anything. Doesn't even really give a reason why. Just say, nope, can't do it. It's not something we can go ahead and do. So, I mean, this really, again, brings into question what I brought up many videos ago in just Zordon and how he runs this outfit, his competence with any of this. Now, again, I'm hoping that they'll bring this up in later comics, that we have a better idea of why Zordon did what he did. But in this particular instance, Zordon was wrong in just about every conceivable way. And again, it all stems from his mistakes. He didn't make sure that Psycho Green was fully destroyed. He didn't have a backup contingency plan if he'd survived. And of course, Zordon should know that man was going to the moon, and that he should have had some idea of what he was going to do if that situation ever came again. Um, I mean, again, he has no plan. He's seat of his pants, and three people die as a result of this. And not even like heroic deaths. I mean, Nikolai gets a heroic death, goes into Psycho Green, blows him up from the inside, but Daniel, his visor gets broken and he suffocates on the moon. And Jamie, she gets crushed by a rock. Which I'm going to just a side diversion here. I mean, isn't the gravity of the moon like a quarter of what it is on Earth? Aren't things actually lighter? And aren't these ranger suits durable to take bullets and laser blasts? I find it hard to believe that a rock, even a big rock, one that Croc might throw, uh, could kill a morphed ranger on the moon. Like, I'm not. I don't know why that's there. It just seems odd to me. Maybe Jamie's not really dead. Maybe she comes back or something like that. Yeah, but that's a side diversion right there. Oh, and again, what the funny thing is the comic does pull into question, why did you pull Jamie? She just has no idea why she's there. She's a singer. What's the big deal? British singer, I believe at that. No explanation whatsoever. And again, she ends up dying. I also wondered too, just as a quick thought. Obviously, Zordon doesn't care about the genders of his rangers and all that, because he made Grace the Red Ranger, he made Jamie the Black Ranger, and made Daniel the Pink Ranger. So my question is that, like, why does Kimberly get a skirt later, and yet Grace, I don't even think she has it. Well, I know Jamie does not have a skirt as the Black Ranger. Like, I want to know the science behind the skirts in Power Rangers, because we decided a long time ago that Yellow Rangers were going to be girls in Power Rangers, and we didn't adjust that from Sentai footage or do anything with it, that now it's just all crazy. And of course, with Super Mega Force, it really made it worse in that mind. Okay, back on topic here. But here's something also with the comic. But again, I love it. I think this is a great idea. I think it was a great story, but it ended. That's the problem. I want to see an entire series of the 1969 Rangers going on adventures. I don't want their first adventure to be their last adventure. I want to see them go throughout, the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, that change in culture, and how that works. How does that work when you have a KGB agent, an Asada person, and a British singer all in the same team together fighting evil of some kind? How do you get our Yellow Ranger, who's a Vietnam vet, and our Pink Ranger, who's a protester? They have a little clash in the comic. I want to see that played out through an entire story arc. I want to see how they deal with each other, how they come to grasp with each other. And of course, how does Nikolai treat the other Rangers? Again, the people from the West, America, again, at the height of the Cold War. How does this play out with all these characters? What kind of adventures can you send them on? I would love to see a spin-off comic that they make about the 1969 Ranger team, where things changed. They actually did survive, but they failed in their mission. Psycho Green released Rita, decades earlier than in normal storyline. So we have an alternate timeline, a period piece of Rangers fighting in the 70s against Rita, and all the things you can do with that historic stuff and all that, and alternate history. I would love that kind of story, because these Rangers bring drama. They bring into question Zordon's competence as a leader and a mentor figure. And just it opens up all those questions. It opens up all those possibilities and ideas. Now, that's not to say that what they're doing with the comic isn't interesting in its own right, but again, up to this point, alternate evil, Tommy is the bad guy. Okay, it's kind of a snooze fest, to be honest. There's my criticism right now of it. But I think this idea has far more potential than a modern day update and retelling of the Mighty Morphin team. Because I mean, yeah, it's good, but do I really need to see what the Rangers are doing in the cell phone era as opposed into the 90s? I just want to see more variety. I want to see different stories and different takes on this. Heck, let's actually do an RPM comic that's good. Let's do you know, maybe a samurai done right, where Jaden is actually Japanese or something like that. I just want to see more unique stories than just going back to the Mighty Morphin well. And yes, this story is a Mighty Morphin story and is the Mighty Morphin team, but again, it's just such a great concept. What if Zordon had done it in the 60s as opposed in the 90s or, again, whatever time the current comics are set? I don't know, guys. I mean, I like the comics. I want to continue to read them, but I just really wish that they would get away from the Mighty Morphin story telling, and they would go ahead and start giving us new and unique stories that we just can't do on television. And I think that's the thing we need to look at these comics for, is that the 1969 Ranger team would never be something that they could do in either a film or in the TV series. They couldn't do it into a film because that would be too much of a risk and be too different from what people know, that nobody's going to accept it except us hardcore fans. They would never do it as an episode of the television series because it involves, actual history. And they can't get into the Vietnam stuff. They can't get into the protest stuff. They would never allow a male Pink Ranger on television for reasons I have no idea about. I mean, I just, the comics should be an avenue to explore stories that you could not do on the television shows or even in the feature films, which is what they're doing. But we got to get out of the Mighty Morphin comfort zone and try some new things. So I'm hoping that, Boom Studios will have another series come out that's not Mighty Morphin based. I really hope they do a 1969 spinoff of some kind. Because hey, they're doing like 60s Batman comics, over at DC and Alternate Universe where Am West kept going. I would love that to be this story here, because again, I like the characters, I like what they're doing, and I love how they question Zordon, because that is something in Power Rangers we don't get that often, is when we do question the authority and question their motives. Frankly, when we do get to the later seasons where we have mentor figures start popping up, because like it was Zordon and then nobody, after Demetria, but let's whatever about her. But after that, it's kind of like, In Space doesn't have one, Lost Galaxy doesn't have one. We get one, Lightspeed Rescue. That was like the first one in a while, but it's part of a military organization, and that's a little bit different. Honestly, the Ranger teams that don't have mentors, I do find a little bit more interesting than those that do have the mentors, because usually the mentors, I mean, they're great and all, but sometimes you do have to question their motives, but none more than Zordon, to be honest. And again, I like Zordon. I think he's great. It's just that I don't understand his logic. I don't understand half the things he does. Okay, but wrapping that up, I mean that's what I like about this, and I'm hoping going forward that we do question more of Zordon's authority. That the comics will continue to give us some good stories. Again, I'm intrigued to see what Shattered Grid is all about. I want to see, not so much. I Okay, so I know like it's Shattered Grid, like people are Ranger characters supposed to be getting killed, and it actually ties in with other continuities and things like that. I don't really care about the kill counts. I mean, everybody's like, let's go see Infinity War. I want to see who dies, Tony or Steve. I'm like, can we just go watch a good movie? And in this, like, I just want to read a good comic. I don't want to. I want to figure out who's going to die and who's not. That's not why I'm reading these things. But I will continue to read them. I will continue to enjoy them. And when I get another specific topic that I want to discuss with you guys, then I'll go ahead and bring it up. I just want to get far enough in line to really kind of catch up. Again, the 69 Ranger thing was unique enough to the fact that they haven't been picked up since, again, to what I've been told. And they just offer so many different unique possibilities that we're not getting with, again, any incarnation of Power Rangers right now. So that's all I really have to go ahead and say. I mean, what do you guys think? What did you think of the 1969 team of issue 20? Do you think it's an idea that could continue? What do you think the implications are about Zordon? Am I making sense, or is it I don't know. What do you guys think about what I've discussed here tonight? Leave your comments below. Please let me know. Otherwise, hey, thank you guys for listening. Have a good evening, and the tavern is now closed.